Hey there, welcome to Motorcycles and Misfits, coming to you from the Recycle Garage in sunny Santa Cruz, California. Hey everyone, this is Liza, and I have a rowdy group with me here today.
Back in the studio.
I had to mute everyone just so I could get that intro in.
Someone's got rowdy trousers.
Oh my!
Yes.
I think it was the pecan tart from earlier.
And
there was pecan tart.
We are back, baby. We are back. I mean, Knock is close enough to me that I can just fondle his ear.
HR will hear about this. That is assault, brother.
Oh boy, it
Consent.
feels good. And not only are we back in the studio together, we've figured out using crazy technology how to also include the Zoom and Bagel from afar, and hopefully future guests can now call in. So we've got crazy stuff going on. But let's get to who is here in the studio. Hey everyone, I am Liza and I am in charge.
You're large and in charge.
That's right. That's right.
Large Marge.
That's right.
Large Uncle Marge.
Got me all self-conscious, man. Like I realized I have no good angles.
I don't know.
360 of bad.
I don't know if you guys know, whenever I do the intro, I have nothing planned and I start saying, and I am, and I, whatever is the first thing that pops into my head. So that's why I never know what I'm going to get.
Yeah, it shows.
Should have a hat with suggestions.
Let's see, joining us for the first time in a long time, exotic number 2.
Is that my number? Number 2?
No, you're actually number 3.
No,
Exotic
he's
number
number
3.
three.
It's Jeremy.
Hello. I'm back from a
Aloha.
long hiatus.
Is it
I
Dr.
know.
Jeremy or is it Masters of...
Bachelor of Science.
It's Master of Beta, Jeremy.
Yeah.
That too.
I am
A lot of
sweaty
practice.
over here.
A lot of years.
Yeah, you're probably going to want to take that jacket off. And then exotic number 2.
But he's always number 1 in my book.
Also joining us, it's been a long time, it's Henry.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
Yeah, and the thing is, a lot of people haven't been on the recording, but they've been around and coming to the garage, so we're still like just having a lot of fun with each other. And then exotic number 1,
What's up, dickheads?
it's not.
How you guys doing? How's everybody doing today?
He's the edgy one.
Can
I
I
am
make
not the edgy one. I am the least edgy one here, actually.
can I make a comment that from my perspective, the south end of the studio is quite exotic heavy at the moment, isn't it?
It is.
The kind of yes.
We're actually a boy band from Korea.
Caitlyn, do you know why they're
Called the
referred?
South
I didn't
Sea.
do my hair up today, but
Do you know why they're referred to as the exotics?
Please explain.
Well, if you want to play Guess That Asian,
That's right.
this is why.
Gotcha.
Uh-huh.
Yes, we all thought we had moved past this in our world, but no, apparently not.
No, we have our beautiful exotics.
Of
Not
course.
so easy
It's
to
so
tell.
Caitlin, go ahead, take your guess.
It's called being raped
Let's
away.
go for Bachelor number 1. Guess That
Please
Asian. Really? You don't even want to play a little?
Come on, Caitlin. You won't get in trouble. I
Don't.
swear.
Okay, hold on. I will hold on. I'll give you a clue. They're half, so they're harder. But this one is 100%. So if you want to guess that Asian, go for it.
God almighty.
This is
Don't
a fun game.
go there, Caitlin.
I'll give you a clue. They don't have restaurants.
Do you still want to have a job?
Oh God.
No.
I mean, we haven't even got
Can I
to
leave
know
now?
each other. I mean,
Yeah. Let's move on to casual racism, please.
Yes,
Casual
please.
racism.
Yeah, Liza, I like how you put all the Asian people in one corner.
I know. Well,
It's apartheid.
It's like fucking Manzanar over
I'm
here.
not going to say what kind of fever I got, but you know.
Holy shit.
I'm just saying. Yeah.
This is why I
Not-
keep coming.
I just got moist.
It's just like
How do you know?
Joining us
Stockholm syndrome.
on the Classy Girl couch, it's Miss Emma,
Aloha, darlings. I'm so happy to be back in the studio.
who, when you think about it, you're probably the most exotic of all because you actually came from another land.
I did.
Yeah.
I came from far away.
Narnia.
Far away from Banania.
Fardia. Soil.
Yes. I came from the land of soil.
Oh my God.
But no, I am actually a fairly recent import from 1994.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Really?
yeah.
I thought you were since like the 70s, yo. I didn't
I'm not
realize-
that old.
I don't know. Fuck. I don't know, apparently.
No,
No.
Knock. I came here in 1994, and I was 32 years old.
Dude,
I was, I believe,
I was in middle
4.
school.
Were you really?
I believe so.
Were you taking lots of chemistry and studying anatomy?
No, I
I
was like,
bet you were.
I was like in speech therapy class.
Oh, okay.
I did that.
That's
too.
This
how
got
bad
deep,
it was.
deep real fast.
I did that too. Continuing
Way to break
around
it
the
down
room.
there, Knock.
What is it?
I know, right?
This is like the Cleveland Moto podcast. We'll be at minute 52. It's still getting an introduction. And to her left, it's Stumpy John.
What's up, everybody?
Hey,
It's the time of the season
you made it
for
back.
loving.
Oh, yes. And of course, it's everyone's favorite, Naked Jim.
Hey, what's happening? Yeah, good to be back. I was in Atlanta doing some traveling. Shout out to Atlanta. What a great city. Diverse, fun, electric scooters everywhere. People having a good time.
Yeah.
But yeah, nice to be back in the studio. Shout out, ride dirt bikes.
Nice. And then joining us in the shit show, we've got 2 special guests. And you might be surprised to find out what our topics are tonight. Something that most people don't expect of us.
Of you?
Okay, I'll go with that. But joining us from San Francisco, Harley Davidson, it's Nick and Caitlyn. Hey, guys.
I mean, you go.
Hello. I'm kind of surprised at the pants.
Like I said, I came for the no pants.
Jim and
Oh,
the
the no
There's supposed
pants.
to be no pants.
Pants.
Oh.
Well, the pants off,
it can
dance off
happen.
comes at the
Do
end.
you want,
Okay.
Oh,
Wait,
right.
you want to fix that?
And there we go.
Oh, no. We're on camera.
Oh, my-
Oh, man.
And
As
demonetized.
long as the balls don't come out.
All right.
There you go.
Okay.
Okay. And then
That was exciting.
last but not least, everyone's favorite ginger. It's Bagel.
Kiss a ginger.
Oh no, Bagel, you froze.
Oh, can you see me now?
Oh no.
He's smiling. No,
He's there. Oh,
I was
Oh,
just going to
perhaps he
say,
didn't have a very
There-
good.
wait,
Oh,
There
yes.
you go.
for the miracle of modern technology,
yeah,
or
there he
something
is.
like that.
Yeah, Bagel's coming to us remotely. And
It
if
was
you're
like a
watching the video on YouTube, there's crazy split screen action going on.
Indeed.
that was like a 30-minute intro, bro.
Dude, I know. Well, let's get to why Nick
Why?
and Caitlyn are here.
Why is anybody here?
And why
man?
Knock
I
should have
even
been here
exist?
earlier.
Because I'm a big dum-dum. That's why I wasn't here.
Well, we knew
Yes.
that already, darling.
Because they brought the Harley Pan America here. Dude, we got to ride it.
Dude, that thing looks cool. It's
I-
a cool fucking looking bike.
I licked it.
Did you really?
I did.
like
It,
it inside.
and you want to know a secret, Knock?
Mm,
It doesn't just look cool.
it rides cool.
It rides.
Well,
very-
it looks a lot smaller than it does in the photos. I tell you what.
Oh, it's a big
The
bike.
old bikes always do that. It was on the flatbed. Even when I was looking up on it, I was like, "Wow, this is actually
No, it's a big.
reasonable size."
It's a big bike.
Is it big?
It's
I don't
big.
You know what else I did with it?
know. Oh God!
That's right.
Wow!
I dicked the Pan America.
Wow!
Oh, well done.
Yes, I did.
Yeah. Last time they bring a bike. Well
Can
done.
you see that?
That's
Can you see
right.
that, Bagel? No, it's moving around.
It is not the
Uh,
dildo glide.
I did. I had to. But you know what? I wasn't the first one to get a ride because there was someone in the room who was quite insistent that they be the first to ride it.
Well, it didn't start that way. So my actual words, I think it was to, or it might have been to Caitlin. I said, look, no, it's to Nick. We were talking about the bike and I said, look, we're going to let everyone else ride it and then I'll be last and blah, 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 blah. And then I found out that it had 4 miles on it. I'm like,
Oh really?
I'm riding it first. And I'm glad I did. God.
Yeah.
So you give your assessment.
Gosh, there's so
Okay,
much
we
to
can
talk
get-
about. It's an adventure bike. It has a lot of go in it. Rightly or wrongly, I think up to this point, in terms of just raw power, the JS 1200 is probably a benchmark. I know the Super 10s have got a lot of power in them, but this is a completely different league. This is 140, 150 horsepower, 90 foot-pounds of torque. This thing moves.
Yeah.
It's physically big. It's not intimidating, though, which I liked it very much. I could chuck it around quite easily. I'm going to keep it short because I want everyone else to have their impressions. The only downside of it that I found, and I think it may have been an idiosyncrasy of riding it around in the city on a hot day. The back cylinder was very, very intrusive in terms of heat on my ride.
You didn't get it to Highway 9 at all? Like just right?
No, it's
No, we
quite a
just went
short
on-
test ride.
Okay.
But you're very aware that the inside of your left knee is against the rocker cover.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're very, very aware of that. I think if it was mine, I'd just find some way to kind of push my knee away from that a little bit.
Yeah.
But literally that tiny thing is the only thing I found that I could remotely criticize about it. And really it wasn't even really a complaint. It was just an observation. It's
a quirk.
It's a
Everybody's
bloody,
got a quirk.
it's a bloody marvelous thing.
Yeah.
It really is.
What do you think about the fit and finish?
Oh God, it's amazing. You know, I've been ranting about how well Harleys have been screwed together for the last 20 years. I mean, the AMF days are long gone.
Yeah, that's your favorite.
I
You
will
prefer your screws loose.
I will maintain that up until this point, Harley have not made anything as handsome as they did during the AMF days. Those AMF Super Glides, God, those are good looking bikes. But this is really, really good looking, and it is beautifully made. The black paint is flawless, absolutely flawless. So I don't know how they get it that smooth.
Yeah,
It's like
looks
it's
super good.
Bentley smooth.
Yeah.
It's even beyond Jag smooth. I mean, it's Bentley smooth, the black paint. And it's just nice. You know, it's just nice.
I thought the
Everything
trellis
kind
work
of-
looked good. Like on the back,
Yeah.
the trellis work looked good.
You know, it's
There's a lot of
nice.
good looking stuff to it.
And the thing is, I think the criticism a lot of people have about Harleys is that they can be a little bit ostentatious. You know, they can have sort of kind of hokey paint schemes and a little too much chrome.
Not from the factory, they don't. People take them and then
You
they
can
do
buy
that.
chromed out ones, but this is very, very tasteful.
Yeah.
It's like it. I never thought it would make. I could find a bike that would make an Africa Twin look blingy,
Mm-hmm.
but this does. It's very restrained. It's very tasteful.
Yeah,
You know-
I looked at it. I was like, oh yeah, that's an adventure bike.
Big thumbs up from
Yeah.
me, and just a unique face. You know, I just look at a bike's face,
Yeah.
and it's absolutely unique in
Oh, yeah,
profile.
you definitely know what it is going down the road, you know?
Nick, tell us what colors it comes in and the thing about how you can swap it around.
Yeah, so essentially it comes in vivid black, which is obviously Harley's #1 color. It comes in a white and orange variant, which is kind of almost tic-tacky.
Mhm.
And then they actually just released for the American market a deadwood green, which is kind of a muted matte-ish.
It's pretty.
Yeah, it's very
Nice.
pretty.
But you can swap parts.
You can. So we were
You
kind
didn't check this out, Emmett, did you?
No, I didn't say it, but I was talking to Nick about it, and we said, you know, you can change out the panels very, very quickly and give it a different flavor.
when we were up at Alice's, we were kind of having fun because we were with the Harley factory guys and everything like that. So we were having fun because you can literally pop the face of that off and run over to another bike and put it on.
Nice.
And
Yeah,
they-
so the whole kind of, it's almost like a bikini fairing, right?
Very modular. Like there's
It's
no
held
screws or
on like a
something, or
side
like-
cover, just
Oh,
pops
interesting.
in
Okay.
and pops out.
I like that.
Yeah.
And so we were kind of upsetting the factory Harley guys because we were putting the white one on the black one and the black one on the green one and the green one on.
Do the whole paper doll thing.
Yep. Then everybody comes back from factory and they're upset because all the customers are giggling about the bike. But yeah, it's very modular, very fun, quick, easy access to the front.
So, John, what was your assessment? Because you got to sit on the one last week that
Yeah.
went up and down.
Yeah, so the one I was hoping you were going to have the one with the adjustable suspension.
We tried.
but I get it. Yeah, so it was the only problem I had was getting the kickstand up. So just trying to get it leaned over far enough to do that. But once I got moving, it was great. So
I don't know if I was helping by running.
No,
over
you weren't
them.
helping at all. You were not helping. I will say the one criticism I have of it is the front skid plate. There's the voltage regulator sticks out. I think the battery's behind that. I think for true like hardcore off road stuff that could be problematic if you're in the baby heads and some of the rocks.
Smashed.
Yeah.
But on the one with the is it called live suspension? What are you calling it?
Active.
Active suspension. It lowered enough for you to feel comfortable in it, didn't it?
Oh yeah, 100%.
I mean, that's the one
So-
advantage I think of this bike, the game changer.
So this thing effectively is an adjustable ride height device, or like it automatically rides.
It does when you come to a stop, it'll lower down.
Right.
And it's pretty seamless. I mean, you don't really
Okay.
feel it very much.
Yeah.
But oh, sorry. Go ahead.
When you're riding it, you really don't feel because we were up there and we we were messing around and stuff. So
Right.
we put like the low seat on, we put the active suspension on, and it drops you down 3-4 inches.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
But what you're saying is when you actually start riding it, it goes to a normal
Yeah.
height.
It's a fixed geometry
Right.
once it's moving.
Yep. Once you're going, it will raise back up to its full potential.
Wow.
That's cool.
I've
That's
heard
clever.
some people say that the suspension seemed a little soft or sluggish compared to the fixed one that was a little more responsive.
Yeah, it's almost like a 50-50 split. If you're talking to somebody like me and John, and we love it because we've never been able to flat foot on a bike like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Whereas I think if you're gonna be talking to an ADV person that has gone out, does all this very regularly, they're probably gonna enjoy the standard with the normal Showa suspension on it.
Right.
I think it's cool for like maybe third parties to come and hack it and have adjustable geometry. You know, you want
Right.
setting 1, setting 2, setting 3, depending on how sporty or more relaxed it is. I think that's pretty neat. Just the potential's there, and so I'm saying.
I'd love to say something. The suspension is brilliant just on the base model.
Yeah.
And it's really easy to use. You know, most bikes now have a menu and you scroll through. This was so easy. I mean, within 30 seconds, I'd turned everything off except for the sport mode and just done a firm on the suspension, which is generally how I like bikes.
Yeah.
And then off I went. It's bloody great.
Right on.
I really had a good time with it.
How about you, Henry? You tried it, yeah?
Yeah, I tried the base model with regular suspension and cast wheels last week up in Alice's and the Honda. So I had the opportunity to basically ride it not on a nice sunny Santa Cruz day in downtown.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I loved it personally. They started you off in rain mode. I immediately switched to sport mode to get the full 150 horsepower, and it was great. It turned in really nice and easy, and I felt there was a lot of feedback through the frame, but it still held a line very confidently.
Oh, that's good.
And the brakes were really good on it too. Like I was trail braking pretty easily once I started getting going. And by the end of the turnaround point, I basically jumped my way up to the first in line in front of everybody else.
Nice.
That was you?
Huh?
That was you?
Yeah. I may or may not have given it a little real world power test of passing cars.
Yeah.
Did it feel like
I saw you on my way up.
did it feel like a familiar motorcycle when you get on it? Like, because I mean, you have a Nord, right? Like
I have a
Guzzi.
a Moto Guzzi Stelvio.
Stelvio, sorry. That was,
You know, basically, a Moto Guzzi is an Italian Harley, or as I like to call it, it's Italian Harley.
Yeah.
okay.
But
Stereotypes,
It is, really?
anyone? No, it was like you were there, Liza. Flawless accent.
It was like I was talking to my family. It was great.
I can
That's
smell the
a
pizza
Harley.
from now.
But yeah, I mean, like, so yeah, compared to your Stelvio,
The Stelvio has a stiffer frame than the Harley, but I would say they both hold a line about equal.
Yeah.
In terms of weight, the Stelvio is 100 pounds heavier than the Harley.
Yeah.
But they're actually both as flickable just because of how the transverse motor is with the Stelvio. But the brakes are definitely better on the Harley, and I would say the suspension is better tuned on the Harley iRoad, which was the base model with the cast wheels. And also, too, I think that's probably why it felt maybe a little bit more nimble as well, because my Stelvio has spokes on it, which are going to be heavier than cast wheels, so it's going to be easier to turn it with the Pan America, the iRoad. But I was really impressed by it. It was an amazing bike.
So I will admit that Harley has brought a bike in, I would say, on even playing field with the big displacement adventure bikes. So if we list those, the Africa Twin, the Super Tenere, the BMW GS,
Triumph Tiger 1200.
Well,
yeah, Triumph Tiger 1200.
the GS is the one that everybody else chases. I was talking to Nick
Sure.
when I did Ducati training a few years ago, and Ducati were making a lot of inroads with a multi-strider, with quality and with the equipment, and the mantra was, we want the GS rider. These are the ones we want. We want the GS crowd.
Yeah.
And this is absolutely heading towards that crowd.
Well, but I'm just acknowledging the other players
right.
who have made a bike that now you can just go by personal preference, right?
Right.
So having ridden most of those bikes, I haven't ridden the big Tiger, but for me, I thought that they have a bike that is in that playing field now. For me, the Pan America, the foot pegs were too high and back, much like the FJ09.
You got a long leg though.
Right. That it wasn't centered to my weight for me. That's it. That's my biggest complaint. And that's the reason why I didn't buy an FJ09.
Right.
Because the foot pegs didn't fit my body position. That's it.
I always feel like ergonomics is an issue with
so-
a lot of people though.
So I would say
something you
that
can fix.
on my Honda Africa Twin, I feel I like the engine, the feel of the engine better. It's smoother. You know, the Pan America has that Harley beast thing, even though it doesn't sound like it. It's so quiet, but it has a bit of that twin beast. But I feel that the Super 10 is a little more gutsy in the engine. If you're just going to, open up.
Wait, what does that mean exactly?
I'm just comparing my personal preferences.
Oh, I see. What you're saying.
And the GS, I feel, is more nimble in turns because that weight is lower and it drops into turns a lot easier. But I really like the Harley styling. For me, that's where I'm like, I like that they've come up with something unique. It looks good. I think that it is in the fair playing field with all these other bikes we mentioned.
I'm sorry, I was going to say, and let's put this styling thing to rest right now, because a lot of people will accuse us and say, that is so superficial, just being attracted to bike because of the styling. But I defy anyone. If you can have the best bike in the world, but if it is just excruciatingly ugly,
Katana.
and every time you look at it, the Katana is a masterpiece. But
PC 800.
Again,
don't blaspheme.
a
Don't
masterpiece.
blaspheme in here.
But if your bike is just so excruciatingly ugly, you can't even look at it straight, it ain't the bike for you. So styling really counts for far more than you think it should be. But riding a motorcycle is a very visceral experience anyway.
Our 1200C.
Ooh.
Yeah.
A hard bike, a hard
Styling
bike
is,
to love.
It's that whole like when you park your bike, you walk away and you turn around, you look at it, you go, yeah, that's my bike.
I do.
You
that.
want that.
Yeah,
you want
you do.
that.
Right.
So
You want that
you know you have the
experience.
wrong one if you don't do it, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
More importantly is the second look.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I thought I would say that it didn't lack in anything so much as other things were just a little bit better to me and other bikes for certain things. But it's definitely personal taste and also a nitpicky, comment. We didn't really get to go out and tour on it. I will say I really like the bar position.
It's very neutral.
I didn't like it at first because when you're sitting, actually, it fits me. I have long arms and it's way forward.
Mm-hmm.
But when I stand up, it's not forward enough. And I was like, I want to like roll them forward. But when I'm sitting, which you're going to be doing most of the time, I felt it was very comfortable forward bars. So I understand why they need to be down and kind of coming back. No, I think Harley has made a good bike. I haven't found any great faults in it. But, we'll see. Maybe let's see how many of those front cowlings start popping off on the freeway.
Well, one thing I did notice, I was following Emma out, and you and Emma were leading on the first ride, and I saw you try to leave him in the dust, and you guys were hauling ass down Chestnut Street.
Oh no, we were treating the bikes with respect.
Yeah, and I was on the FC1. I'm like, you guys were ripping down the street, so it pulls.
No, it's got some go in it.
Oh yeah.
It's it's not a 4-cylinder bike. If you're used, you would be looking for power.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Compared with your FC1.
Yeah.
But it's got a lot more power than an Africa.
Okay, so
and it's got a lot more power
as
than
far
a
as
Super
torque
10.
and power delivery, it's there from 0 to
Yes.
whatever the rev limit is.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's very straight, very linear.
Yes.
Because I love that about twin bikes.
All
That's
those
like-
things.
So one of the other big things, you have to get it off road though, is like with the Africa Twin, 21-inch front wheel, right? This has a 19-inch front, which is still plenty big, right? But that's another. I'd be curious to do it like in some real low speed.
You see,
kind of
I
maneuvering,
think that's
and then rip up some baby head.
that's going to be a compromise, because it's a compromise for the good, because everybody I talk to who owns an Africa Twin loves how they ride in the dirt and hates how they ride on the freeway. Everyone, including Liza.
Oh,
the
yeah.
21-inch
And the
wheel?
and
totally.
the 19-inch wheel
or 19, yeah.
is a lot better. I grew up riding superbikes with 19-inch wheels.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all the stuff I used to ride back in the 70s, the GS1000s, the Z1s, the Z11s, they all had 19-inch front wheels. It's a lot more stable platform on the freeway, and I think probably that's why Harley did it. And, you know, I would love to know how much you're giving away in the dirt to get this really stable highway platform.
Yeah. Well, and we always talk about even our adventure bikes. How much are we actually adventuring in some dirt? It's probably at most 85% of the time we're on the street.
Okay.
We do more than normal people with adventure bikes.
I have a question. So as far as the different models you can get, can you get an option with? It sounds like you can get an option with cast wheels, but what size tires can you get it with? 16, 17s, or 21s?
No, I think in the wheel department it's either cast or spoke, but I believe it's still 19s.
19s, okay.
19 in front, 17 in the rear.
Got
You've
it.
got a 170 rear tire,
Gotcha.
and I think a 110 or a 120. It's
170.
chunky in the front.
Yeah, okay.
The other thing, when you're talking about the price, one of my biggest criticisms about the Livewire when we discovered that it was an actual bona fide bike was bang for the buck compared to the best Zero. It was like 10 grand more. It was so priced out. They made a legitimate bike, but priced it out. This bike is, I believe, in par with the GS. The base model of this is about the same price as the best Africa Twin. So Africa Twin is still like a good value, but it's close. It's close. They definitely got it in the ballpark. It's really hard to find many faults with it.
No, I tell you what, no price. We need to get on this thing because it's a lot cheaper than the GS, and it is a lot cheaper than a multistrada.
Yeah,
We're not counting the multistrada in this.
Well, I think it even comes in under the Triumph, the Explorer. I think it's red
you know,
21.
Explorers have been getting expensive lately.
Yeah.
How does it compare to the 1290 Super Adventures from KTM's?
Like price wise?
Yeah.
I don't know the price of the KTM.
Yeah, those things are like north of 19 or something. Like
I was gonna say, I think it's right in the ballpark because the standard is mid 17.
Yeah, 17.
And then the special with all the goodies on it is 20.
So it's same level as Multistrada, Ducati, and KTM. All the other expensive
Yeah,
Euros.
there. I mean, obviously it can fluctuate because like if you get the special with the adjustables, it's going to go up to like 21, 22. And these are all like, rough numbers, but the if you get the base model with the standard suspension, everything like that, it's right around mid 17.
How much was the one we rode today, Nick? So that's the wire wheel version with the basic but adjustable suspension.
I believe that is the bottom end of the special. So that would be right at the
18.
no, it's the right at the 20-ish mark.
Okay.
So, I do have one fault that we found with it. It did overheat today.
Did it?
It did. It overheated where it would not turn back on.
Oh,
Now,
that was it. Okay.
we were taking it for short rides, but it was staying in motion, always like 20, 30 miles an hour. And it wasn't, I mean, it's Santa Cruz hot,
Well,
so it wasn't like a 98-degree day,
But in defense,
but it did overheat.
In defense of the bike, it had got 4 miles on it, or it had got 17 miles on it when it overheated.
Yeah.
So it got no miles. It's probably got this stupid braking oil in it. And we were doing a lot of idling in the parking lot between riders.
You guys didn't take it out of town at all, or no?
No, we weren't
No,
allowed
we
to.
just-
Not.
We just did.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that. Okay.
No,
okay.
because we only had one, and we had a whole bunch of people here,
Got it.
so we just did laps around Neary, and it's
Gotcha.
and it's beach traffic, weekend traffic.
Yeah,
so there were
it's-
nut jobs,
Oh,
which I want to
okay.
say. First, there was somebody doing a U-turn on Washington Street who, as we're coming down the road, they just froze and stopped in our lane. I'm like, I'm not going to go behind a car with reverse lights on.
No.
They're doing a 3-point turn in the middle of the road. Then I get down to the to the rotary, and there were pedestrians, so everyone was kind of stopped in the rotary. And somebody decided while they're in the rotary that maybe they want to go up that road instead, so they were backing up.
Oh,
God.
jeez.
And I'm just like, it was just like, it was shit show. It was shit show.
But contrary to what Jim says, we weren't thrashing those bikes, were we, Liza?
No.
La, 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 la.
Though I know Charlie got in trouble today for borrowing Micah's bike and wheeling it.
Pan America, for reference, will do wheelies, by the way.
Oh, good.
Perfect.
Oh no, I vouch for that.
Yeah. So, congratulations, to Harley Davidson. It sounds like you guys are already
Pre-orders and like just people
Yeah,
are-
we're actually Harley is allocated 2 bikes per store essentially.
Uh-huh.
San Jose's out, San Francisco's essentially out.
Wow.
We have 6 more bikes on the way, I believe, with pre-orders.
So we're
Wow.
riding somebody's bike.
No,
No,
Breaking it in.
no. I'll make sure that John gets that scuff off the seat.
But in conclusion,
I did not scuff the seat for the record.
But in conclusion, it's something I think you would never hear from the Misfits in general and Liza in particular.
No. That
But-
is not true.
Okay.
How
Because I have not
accusatory.
met any of the owners of a Pan America yet. I reserve my judgment for them.
That's true.
That is who my beef is with.
The
not
Dyna Bros?
bikes.
Do they have special skulls for the Pan America? And
Oh,
God.
Well, let's just say the first guy that bought his Pan America from us has already painted it, did the Shark Tank thing, mouth open, his patch wear, got rid of his bike, and this is his bike, but he
Yeah.
would be your ADV rider by any means.
so far he's already done a full A10 Warthog
Yep.
paint
Nice.
job to it.
Yeah.
Nice.
So where's
I'm
the
into
whip
that.
attachment?
Corbin gunfighter.
Well, and I
They're
wanted,
coming.
I wanted to bring something up because this is getting a lot of buzz. In fact, there was a great test ride a couple of weeks ago where they took people out Rawhide Adventures down in Southern California in the desert, and
We
took
like those
experienced
guys.
riders, including
Yes.
Aaron Sills, who really put it to the test. Aaron Sills had a great write up on it,
Right.
so it's getting very good reviews. But I want to remind everyone that this is not Harley Davidson's first foray into dirt.
Oh, no, not by a long
That
shot.
is true.
Emma, you want to fill us in?
Well, it's been a long time.
Is this a history hole?
It might be.
Fill
Oh
me-
my.
fill me in. Fill me
It's
in.
It might
dark.
be. I bet you it's yes.
A wee
It's
bit
dank.
nappy.
Or is it a Harley hole?
Emma's
crawl into
history
Emma's
hole.
history hole.
It's
Fill me in.
dark.
Her
It's-
hole is warm.
It's dark. It's stank. It's where I keep all my stuff.
It's
It's
moist.
Emma's history hole.
Feel me, Emma.
Dear
That
God.
just
I
got
knew it was
weird.
gonna get weird.
That just got weird.
So
You had to go there.
we're kind of gonna start in 1957. Well, we'll start in 1957, but it actually goes back further than that. But we're going to start in 1957 with the Harley XL series. And the Harley XL series were what became the Sportsters. And they weren't always known as Sportsters. But in 1957, Harley Davidson came out with a unit construction. And basically, the unit construction was the engine and transmission were all in one big lump.
Mhm.
883 or 1000 cc. Oh God! You put that away right now, Jim.
Oh,
No.
Jim, what the heck?
He's got a panda mask on. It
It's
is
his purge mask.
extremely disconcerting. And you know the worst part about it? I don't think that's for a child. I think that's from some sick deviant party that you're going to.
Is that another one of your weird
It's for
Come
G-strings?
dirt biking. Come
It's
dirt
his
biking.
furry.
It's a
podcast
merkin.
he does.
Is he? Are
It's
you
a
a,
merkin.
are you
He's
a,
a furry.
are you a plushie?
No, no, nothing of the
Well,
sort.
actually,
Thank you.
just technically you are.
Huh.
I've seen you with your shirt off.
Oh,
Yeah.
Bumps.
Anyhow,
So,
back to the history.
yeah.
So we're talking about the very, very early Harley Davidson Sportsters. And they in themselves were kind of developed from the K series, which started in the very early 50s, but that was a side valve engine. The Sportster, the XL series, was an overhead valve engine. But we're going to focus in on one model, the CH. And unofficially, everyone refers to it CH Competition Hot. That was actually always an unofficial title. It was almost a nickname given to it by Harley. However, this bike came in both street and street scrambler versions. A lot of bikes did back then. The term street scrambler, you've often heard referred to as British bikes. But what people don't realize is the Sportster was a direct competitor for English bikes of the time. And if Triumph were doing a street scrambler and BSA were doing a street scrambler, well, guess what? Harley were doing too, because it was firmly in their sights. So for every Sportster that they sold with low pipes and street tires, They were selling two with high pipes and knobby tires on. This was back in the late 50s. And the Sportster, we talked about it last week. It's one of the longest running models in Harley Davidson history. It's virtually, I'm not going to say it's virtually unchanged, but there's direct lineage from 1957 to 2021. And if you want to include the K series, which shared the same bottom end, you can go back to the KH of 1954. So that's quite a lineage. And there was always a dirt package. And these are the true Harley Davidson dual sport bikes going way back to the 1950s. You know, Motorcycle News in England tested a Harley Sportster 1000 competition hot in 1960. And it was the fastest bike they'd ever tested at the time. Now, put that into perspective. That's faster than a Vincent Black Shadow, as bizarre as it sounds. Because you think, oh, yes, Harley Davidson, you know, CH, Vincent Black Shadow. The Vincent's going to be a way faster bike. But the Harley Davidson actually went through the traps quicker. And in that particular test, they used it almost exclusively off-road because that's what the bike was set up as. There's a great example. Jim's just found me a lovely picture of a very, very early bike. Yep, and that is a 59. Knobby tires, high pipes. Look how handsome that is. Isn't that delightful?
Little seat too.
Yeah.
Nice.
So we'll post that one up. So there's just a mini history hole. So Harley adventure bikes? I don't think so. You know, we got the Pan America, as exciting as it is, it's part of a long line of them.
But we did have the Buell Ulysses too.
Well, the Ulysses, yeah. I mean, Buell always had a funny nepotistic relationship with Harley. It was run as an autonomous company, even though Eric Buell at the time was an employee for a while.
You know, I always feel like if you own a motorcycle company, there at one point or another, you will have to get into the adventure market.
Nowadays,
even like briefly, you know.
Yeah, it's where it's
part
at.
of, yeah, it's you just got to do it.
So Emma, quick question for you. So being from San Francisco,
Yes.
Suicide Club with Harley,
Yes.
flat track days, uphill racing.
There you go. Flat track. We didn't even get in. You see, I was doing the dirt segment. You want to talk about Harley flat track history? Good Lord, it is their history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Started in the dirt.
Mert Lawwell,
Yeah.
Yeah.
to name one.
Well, and you know, there's been a lot of talk what with all the moves that Harley's making, the live wire, now the Pan America, that they're diversifying and trying new things to try and save the company. But this is nothing new because they've been doing this for forever. In fact, it's time for Bagel's history hole. Bagel, what are you going to share with us today?
Well, maybe it's a mini bagel history hole. This is about not a.
Is it as dank as Emma's history hole?
No, but it's
a little more.
It's got cinnamon crumbs.
Who's crawling into his hole?
So this is about
It just got weird again.
not a Harley dirt bike, but a Harley scooter, which is called the Harley Topper.
That's right.
That Harley produced from 1961 to 1965.
Yes.
Yeah, this was a one-cylinder, two-stroke engine that had used pre-mixed fuel. It was 165 cc, or in freedom units, that's 10 cubic inches. And it featured reed valve induction. It put out an honest American 9.5 horsepower. And it started with a full start. And it had a top speed of 46 miles per hour. There was also a detuned model that only put out 5 horsepower because it used a carburetor restrictor. And this was for states that had restricted laws for minimum driving ages. So like if you were 14 or whatever and you could ride a restricted bike, that was what that market was for. So this was a very interesting has an interesting heritage because the engine for this bike came from war reparations from Germany after World War II. The engine was based on the DKW Hummel 125cc motor. And Harley had boarded out for the American market for a little more power. However, they had counted on cooling to be provided by the airflow underneath the bike. So they didn't provide any cooling tins or forced air cooling for it, which unfortunately led these bikes to have a lot of overheating problems. One other negative mark that they had a lot was they had a CVT automatic transmission, but it tended to slip when oil would get on the belt or the pulleys. And since it's a two-stroke, there was lots of oil around. It did feature 12-inch wheels, which was a full 2 inches bigger than most other scooters of the day. It had a steel tube frame, a steel front fender, and leg shield. And it had a very sort of a boxy fiberglass rear bodywork. And the bike also featured a parking brake, which was kind of unusual for bikes at the time. It was mainly marketed towards kids and the younger market. And the models were upgraded in 1961 with a little bit of different styling. But unfortunately, because the scooter market was already in decline at that point, the Harley Topper never caught on, never really sold, and just kind of was a flop. And after 5 years, they just pulled the plug on the whole product, and it was done. But there are still a few models around that that still exist that you can find on for sale online. I've never ridden one myself, but I'd be very interested to try it out just to see what it's like. But yeah, it features sort of a two-tone paint scheme, usually a cream and some other color like red or blue or aqua here.
It looks like an igloo cooler.
Makes me want to buy ice cream.
I like it. It's cool.
It is very refrigerator-like.
It looks ahead of its time a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very kind of sort of a utilitarian styling design from back in the day. It's unique, I'll say. But and it definitely looks very vintage with modern eyes.
It's like it's European blocky, how like it's no sharp corners. You know what I mean? Like it's got that smooth old Jetta, like 90s Jetta look or something.
It's from the Bauhaus school of design.
Yeah, no, it's
Are those passenger pegs or for like drag racing?
Yeah.
Yes.
So, but yeah, that was the scooter that Harley produced. However, it's not not the only Harley scooter that exists. There is another Harley scooter out there, which did not actually get created by Harley, but was created out of a Harley. And this was, this was invented and designed by our friend Craig Vetter.
Yes.
And this bike is known as the Defiant Torpedo Scooter.
Raise your hand if you've seen it. That's right.
Is that the one that big ass V twin in it?
Yes.
Yes, it has a Harley.
And I bet you Nick and Caitlyn didn't know this bike exists. Did you?
No.
Yes.
This is secret laboratory stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, this was designed around 2004, from what I understand, and it's basically a fully enclosed scooter with bodywork front and rear around a Harley engine and drivetrain, with a step-through design, which is there's one model that has bodywork that has portholes, a tail fin, ribbed bumpers, two-tone 50s colors. And it's a gigantic, massive scooter, basically, with Harley wheels, motorcycle-sized wheels, and it's very long. It's longer than a regular Harley because there's added length for the step-through design. So it's it's a very interesting looking bike, and it was, from what I understand, the idea was that this company called Defiant would produce the bike, but apparently for whatever reason it never got off the ground. I wasn't able to find out a lot of information about what happened with it, but there are a few prototypes that got made.
Yeah,
I mean, we know. Right, we've seen the we've seen the prototypes.
Yeah, it's parked
which-
in
which
Carmel Valley
break
right
that.
now.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Two
So
of
the
them.
bikes, the bikes still exist, but it never went into production. So, but interestingly, there is another scooter that is also known as the Defiant, which was a British scooter from the '60s, which kind of has a similar nose to the Vetter Defiant Torpedo. So you can look up a DKR Defiant if you want to see what that looks like.
Nice. Thank you, Bagel.
You're welcome.
Well, and
I liked that hole. Thanks.
Well, and I.
Whose hole's
You like
better?
his hole?
Well,
That's the question.
So guess what? I've got holes too.
Oh, really?
Oh, girl.
Don't ever
What?
don't
No,
ever
no,
say those
we'll-
words.
I mean-
again.
We'll pass on that.
Don't
Come
ever
on.
say those words
I feel like
again.
everyone else has been in there. I want to be in there.
Well, and I'm here to remind everyone that
At least in this room.
Harley Davidson has a history of racing, not just flat track racing,
Right.
but they actually got into
Road racing.
road racing.
XR series.
And, you know, it's my favorite model right here. Yeah. The Harley Davidson VR 1000 race bike.
Lucifer's hammer, right?
And here's the thing that was interesting about this bike. Yeah, it used the V-twin engine, but Harley Davidson saw the writing on the wall that things were starting to change and that you needed to make more eco-friendly engines, right? And so they put that into the race bike. And even though it wasn't hugely successful and it took them years to kind of develop it, but it was, I believe it's fuel injected. It had overhead cam instead of push rods. So it, let's see, and it had water cooling. It was water cooled. I think it was one of the first water cooled Harley Davidsons. So they put all those things into the race technology, like many companies do. Things that go to race bikes then make it out
Right.
into regular bikes. It never really lived up to the dream, but the Harley VR 1000, if you ask me, is a beautiful bike, beautifully designed. I would love to ride it. This has got to be the beast of all beasts with that engine, but also it was crucial in the evolution of the modern day Harley Davidsons and a lot of the things that they put into them to make them better bikes.
But I tell you what, that thing you've got up on the screen right
Mhm.
now on the right, that's a brilliant looking bike.
It really is.
Yeah.
That's almost Britain beautiful. I know that's sacrilege.
That's just a render, though, right? It's
It
from the
is,
pan- yeah.
unfortunately. And you know, the engine looks surprisingly Pan America-ish. That
Mhm.
doesn't.
Hmm.
If you go back to the rendering
Mm-hmm.
and look at the rocker boxes and the clutch cover,
Right.
that's a Pan America mill.
I like the one-piece
Yeah.
tank and seat and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But-
Yeah.
Crushingly handsome.
Yeah, so they have a long history. And in fact, we mentioned it earlier, the live wire. And I wanted to do a little bit of news. Nick, are you going to be able to explain to us what is happening with the live wire? No longer the Harley live wire. Are you
It
guys
is no
aware of
longer,
this?
it's no
Yeah.
longer the Harley Livewire. It is now just Livewire.
Just live wire.
So they're peeling away from Harley and creating their own brand, essentially, kind of like think Toyota Scion type deal.
Mm.
Mhm.
And I think it's going to be for a good thing, just because it kind of gives it a different avenue to go down along, with other customers. One of the biggest things, a lot of people get a little shy about is coming into the actual dealership.
Mhm.
So this kind of give a different avenue for people to go experience the bike, look at it, feel it, everything like that, without having any sort of the intimidation.
So, and Emma, maybe you can speak to this a bit so Nick doesn't get in trouble. Dealerships are required to carry
Yes.
so many models,
Yes.
of every bike.
Right.
So by doing a deal like this, the dealerships are not required to have
Right.
a live wire, right?
And
This-
it makes a lot of sense, because if you think about the traditional Harley buyer, and I mean, they come in many, many flavors, and we don't like doing stereotypes here, but if you go down to any Harley Davidson dealer on a Saturday afternoon, generally you can see the old timers,
Yeah.
and there's always plenty of them. And then, me and Caitlyn have been laughing about the Dyna Bros. And
Sorry for any of them watching.
yeah, the Dyna Bros. In
Yeah.
California, the Dyna
Do they
is
usually have a ponytail?
And they usually have a Sons of Anarchy shirt on. Too.
Vans, plaid shirt, Simpson Bandit helmet.
yeah.
Those
Okay.
guys.
Gotta have your ball cap.
So they went
hanging off
great
your belt
straight
loop.
from
Right.
skateboard
You
rack
just-
to got
Wheeling
it.
in front of a bar.
But then
Eat lots of ramen.
we're going to introduce the demographic who are interested in the live wire, and they don't necessarily fit in that crowd, and they may be intimidated by that crowd. I mean, frankly, you know, to walk into a busy Harley Davidson dealership on a Saturday afternoon, you really need to be quite cocksure of yourself, because there's always lots of characters kicking around. So it makes sense. If you're making a bike that is so different that it's going to appeal to a completely different crowd, make it a standalone brand.
Mhm.
And as well, and I might be dropping you in it now, Nick, because, but I said, well, usually when a manufacturer does a standalone brand, that means there's going to be lots of other models within that brand, just as Toyota did with the Prius.
Mhm.
The Prius is not a model anymore. It is the Prius family. And there's the Prius 5 and blah, 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 blah. Just as the live wire is going to be a range of live wires now. Are you allowed to say that, Nick?
I can neither confirm nor deny.
There you
that.
go.
Say.
And now,
So will they be building them in Milwaukee, or where will they build them from here on? Do you know?
They'll have their own factories.
They will.
Mhm.
Domestic, you think?
I
Or can
think
you
starting
not say?
out, they're still coming from Wisconsin.
But yeah, I mean, they have their R&D actually based out here in Palo Alto for the liveware. So
Right,
wondering
okay.
if they're going to be utilizing that a bit more, but
so
we cannot confirm or deny,
Bagel.
as Nick says.
if Livewire starts coming out in different models, and one of those is an electric scooter,
Ooh, let me
Yeah.
know.
You should do it, man.
you think you'd buy one?
It all depends on the performance, but I'm always interested in a very good, robust electric scooter.
You guys, this is crazy. Like we're all like, oh, I'd ride that Harley. Yeah, I'd have. It's like Harley is really changing
Well-
things up, but we're projecting
Like-
something that may happen.
Like an electric topper.
I'd be into
That
that.
would be cool.
The
Yeah. Okay.
thing-
Now I'm
No, I
interested.
found Bagel. I found one on Amazon for about $1,000, and it's a cooler.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
The cost of a Yeti.
I think the thing that has impressed me the most, we all want Harley to do well. And you get this notion that they're kind of scrambling to find new audiences and cobbling things together, and it's all kind of half-assed.
Mhm.
There is nothing I have seen from them recently that is half-assed at all. A Livewire is a beautiful bike and is screwed together very, very well. And this Pan America is as good as anything I've ever seen
Yeah.
from Europe or Japan.
Mhm.
So these are not cobbled together bikes from a dying company that's scrambling to find new
I'm
audience.
There have
These
always
are
been
proper motorbikes.
there have always been kind of like economically the industry barometer of how motorcycles are doing. you
Well,
know,
here in America,
in
yeah.
America, well, I think worldwide too. I'd imagine.
Yeah, I think
know?
to a certain extent. I mean, you know, if Harley go down the toilet, whether you ride one or not, we're all in trouble
Yeah,
because it is that barometer.
Yeah.
Well, the Harley too. I think the Pan American's a good crossover because you have so many people in the Midwest that just want to cruise, and that's why you end up getting these big baggers, right? But like our touring bikes are Africa Twins, they're adventure bikes, right? Because they're comfortable. So I could see if you're just bored of riding Harleys all the time, you live in Iowa or somewhere, or all your friends have Harleys, you know, the baggers. Why not get this? Because you can still tour on it, but you look different. It looks cooler. It's a cool looking bike. So,
So if you roll into a hog meeting, will you feel accepted, do you think, on that?
Well, it's funny that you say that because it's really been a 50-50 split on who's been coming and looking at the
Mhm.
bike.
Mm.
But what's hilarious is along the lines of, you know, a lot of our core customers getting older and older, they've been kind of peeling back to say like a Heritage or a Road King or something like that. That's a little bit lighter. But what's really cool is now we've actually seen a handful of people when we were up at Alice's that were like, this might be my next touring bike. And we're like, absolutely.
I think I
you
heard
know,
Emma
it
say
is.
that today.
I would easily ride one.
yeah.
So
I'm not quite ready to give up the Sport Tourer yet.
I'll tell
But
you.
my back may have other ideas.
I'll tell you why I liked hearing the news about the Livewire splitting off. I remember back when the Buells were brought into the dealerships and everyone had to have them. And there were a lot of dealerships that didn't like them, would stick them in the back corner and be resent that they're being forced to have them, especially when you're talking about the little Buell Lightning or something, right? It totally didn't go with them. And then I saw it happen again when the Street 500 and 750 came out. There were so many dealerships that resented it, and they stuck them in the back. And even if you went in there and asked about it, they'd try and talk you into something else. There was resentment. And I can definitely see a lot of dealerships having the resentment. I'm just going to throw it, say like in Kansas or something, where the electric infrastructure maybe isn't there, and they may resent having this, whereas now you can let it grow in the places where it wants to grow and possibly have their own dealerships.
Yeah, definitely, possibly. I was gonna say there's a lot of new news that's floating out there about what's happening and everything like that.
I think the biggest news here, even though you're not saying anything, if you're going to have a standalone, that means there's going to be more models, which means I think we can see that platform being used in many different types of models, which is kind of cool.
Hey, Harley, if you want to make a scooter, to come talk to me.
Or a dirt bike.
That's right. 2021, we're going after GS. 2023, coming after you.
Yeah, no, it's true. There's interesting moves being made. I have more Harley news, and I bet you most of you don't know this. So Harley Davidson has really been having an upswing, not just because of the Pan America or the Live Wire or any of the other stuff, but did any of you happen to follow the Mecum auction last week?
No, what got sold? That was
Are you
banging.
talking about the Captain America bike?
No.
Liza, don't talk about my purchases.
Yeah, what? What big money
In the
baller
Mecum
bought
auction, there was, of the top 10 sellers, of the top 10, number one, 1907 Harley Davidson strap tank went for $297,000.
Holy shit!
Wow.
297.
And strap
That's a lot
tank
of
is
dirt
that leather
bikes.
strap on that square tank.
Yeah.
Number two, 1943 Harley Davidson E for $220,000. Number three, 1946 Harley Davidson FL for $220,000. Number four, 1947 Harley Davidson FL for $192,000.
Holy shit!
Wow.
Number five, Vincent Black Shadow for $165,000.
Okay.
Man.
Number six, anyone want to take a guess?
Bet it's another Harley.
1936 Harley Davidson EL for $159,000.
Wow.
Number seven, any guesses?
Harley?
That's correct.
Yeah.
1938 Harley Davidson EL for $154,000.
It's all those flying Cossack bikes.
Number eight, not a Harley. Any guesses?
Crocker.
Indian.
Okay.
Oh,
It's one of three. Yeah.
1903 Indian went for 143. All right, number nine, 1944 Harley Davidson FL, $143,000.
Wow.
And number 10, a 1942 Harley Davidson EL for $137,000.
Plenty of money out there.
Damn, dude.
good
Man.
Lord.
The old Harleys are really moving up now too.
Yeah.
Emma, you better be getting that AMF while you can.
Yeah. And the AMFs are getting expensive now.
Wait, you got a line on an AMF Harley or something?
No, just
I've got a line on a few of them, but
Oh,
AMF
shit.
shovels are getting big money now because nostalgia is always big business.
True.
And as we get older, we look back to a period of time that we're nostalgic about. I mean, I'm a classic. I'm never happier than when I'm sitting on a 70s superbike.
For sure.
You put me on a CBX or a GS1000, I'm in hog heaven.
Yeah, for sure.
Because that's my period of time. To somebody like yourself, it might be sort of an 80s or even an early 90s sport bike.
Sure.
So we all look back. The early bikes are quite different. I've been toying around with some very, very early bikes in the workshop, some 1920s and 1930s. And it's
Doing resto jobs on them? Or
yeah,
something? Okay.
and riding something that's 100 years old, it's it's kind of a wild experience. It's a very, very different vibe.
It is. What percentage of Death Trap to classic vibes is it?
It's probably 98% Death Trap, 2% classic vibe.
Sounds about right.
But it's such a bizarre experience.
Yeah.
Of being on this contraption.
Yeah.
And motivating yourself down the road.
It's crazy because you're like writing that era technology, essentially.
Right.
Like with just the material science wasn't there, or the engineering wasn't there, like.
Right. You're basically writing an experiment.
Right, exactly.
And you are the guinea pig.
Yeah. That
awesome. Sounds like Jim's mini bike.
Oh yeah, all the boxes are checked on that one. Although I've not lit myself on fire on it yet.
Yeah, Caitlyn, how did you get on with Jim's mini bike? I mean, it's a meaty sounding thing.
It was fun. I just held on for dear life.
Yeah,
that's
well,
what they all say.
I got a picture. The thing is, everyone who rode that was grinning like an idiot.
Oh, wait, you got a new mini bike, son? That's what.
No,
you like that?
That's his steampunk.
HOC.
That's
Honda Racing, son.
But that was a camel bike, right?
Race Tech.
Yeah.
That thing is awesome, bro.
Yeah. So, yeah. Oh, all the other thing about the Mecum auction, you guys have noticed in the last few weeks, things have turned around. Remember, it was not too long ago.
Right.
Things were still bleak. There was all the politics. There was the COVID.
Right now.
I mean,
and can't you believe that was only like 12 months ago?
No, 3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago.
Right.
Yeah.
3 weeks ago, we were still there, right? In the doom and gloom.
Yeah.
Not sure what's going on with the economy. I mean, there's so much going on.
Time is meeting.
The Mecum auction, 95% sell-through rate.
Wow. Holy
But-
shit.
Pandemic's good for rich people.
I have
Usually
said
does.
this before, and I'll say it again. And is always shown in things like the Mecum auction. There's always this reverence for the domestic product. If you go, it doesn't surprise me that so many Harleys were in the top 10.
Yeah.
If you were to go to Goodings or something in England, top 10 would be British bikes.
Mecum is exclusively American? Is that what it is?
No, Mecum's worldwide,
Worldwide,
but I
okay.
mean, it's the.
Is it always in Vegas? They do it in Vegas, right?
The
Phoenix,
thing, it's
Phoenix.
the traveling show. Snake oil. But any of the British auction houses are out there as well. I know Mecum employs a lot of Brits. But if you were to go to England, it'd be the Black Shadows and the Square Fours and the stuff like that that's fetching big money. And the Gold Stars were always a big money bike.
Rightly so.
But it's domestic. It's reverence for the domestic product. And I preach that.
Yeah. Well, you see a lot of muscle cars there too,
Yes.
right?
Oh,
All
yes.
that kind of stuff.
Oh, yes. And, I've never understood. If you want to buy a muscle car, you need $100,000. And yet you can get this like glorious early 1950s Cadillac for a fraction of that amount. That's the size of a whale. I think I'd enjoy the Cadillac a lot more. The emails being passed around, this crinkling of paper.
Oh, Liza made it funny. Look what she did.
Oh God! Oh my!
She's drawing dongs again.
Childish. How childish! That's a good surprise. You never do that.
Well,
Yes, there's a- here you
We're
go.
talking about the mood changing in the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
If Liza is sketching rude pictures, the mood is changing among the
Life is
misfits.
back to normal.
Life is back to normal because normally it's me and Jim that are exchanging rude pictures between one another.
Yeah. Oh, I have some more news. Okay. Going back. All right. This has been dragging on. So remember we came up with our top 10 list.
Yeah. Oh
Best
God.
bikes.
Again.
And then Cleveland Moto.
It's
had
a
to-
subjective
Hold on.
list.
Cleveland Moto had to come up with their list and knock ours down.
Well, they don't know anything.
And then Noco Moto, they critiqued both of our lists. And then we came back and came up with a refined list. And then Larry at Creative Writing came up with his refined list of all of our lists. It just keeps going. So yeah, you can check that out. But
Human centipede of bad lists.
Is there
it
any one
just keeps
bike?
going.
Is there
It
any
just
one
keeps
bike we all
going.
agree upon?
It just keeps going. However, one of the topics that came out of that is, you said you wanted to talk about the most misunderstood bike.
Yes.
Well, we got our friend MotoGP to Nokomoto
Yes.
sent in a response to that, and it ties in with everything we're talking about today.
And what does he feel the
And he
world's
says,
most misunderstood?
preferably to be read by Emma, the most credible person in the world this week.
Oh,
So I
thank
will
you.
pass this down.
Damn.
To
Wow,
you.
that's pretty.
This is from Peter Bolton.
That's MotoGP.
Do it in a
Yes.
British accent.
Yeah, we need an accent here.
Yeah, do
Do
the
you,
British
do you
accent.
need it done in a British accent?
Can you do it in a southern
Cockney,
accent?
Cockney accent, if possible.
Right, hey. Right then. Harley Davidson Life, why an alternative theory or a truth? No, I'm going to read it normally. Pay attention,
Truth.
everyone. And bear in mind, I'm just reading this email. The opinions expressed on this are not necessarily my own because I don't think this is going to be an interesting email. Harley is not a blue collar company. It is a luxury motorcycle company. The mistake is in the performance. Speed, handling, range, and value are not the features. Style is the feature. Harley makes
Damn.
bikes you feel a certain way. They have a style which cannot be copied. Electric motorcycles have an air of saving the world about them. The Livewire was not intended to save the world, not even close. It is by far the coolest looking electric bike right now, hands down. Harley made sure to focus on things that seemingly don't make sense, like haptic feedback, fancy display screens, an unnecessarily complicated starting procedure. It's all a way to make premium buyers feel satisfied to buy and ride a bike which does all the things V-twin Harleys do in an electric way. Wait a minute. If the weight wasn't an issue, it would have been a cruiser. It's an early adopter toy and it's fun. It's expensive and it's not practical. It's outrageous in many ways. It grabs attention. It's an excellent Harley. If you want an electric bike that could save the world right now, get an NIU scooter. Is that a new scooter? Otherwise, shut up and be happy such a weird thing exists. We all know it costs too much. Since when was that a problem for Harley? It's an elite electric. It's not working class. It wasn't for you. It's misunderstood. It's the electric MV Augusta. It's on the fast end of the electric bikes, maybe not the fastest, but it's the finest. It's a very, very fine thing. It's luxury. It's flash. The public has kind of cancelled this bike for not being blue collar. How did it ever pretend to be? It's a shame. How is the Energica getting a pass? We know the Energica and Zero go farther, but only at boring speeds. How far do you think a Ferrari goes on a full tank? They are indeed a better value, but not by as much as you think if you give it the beans. And they don't grab the attention the Harley does. Not saying the Harley is better, saying it's so widely misunderstood, it may be the most misunderstood bike of all time. If you still don't believe me, think about this. You know how that feeling of being impressed and being slightly put off when you see a Ferrari go by? The Livewire was meant to do the motorcycle version of that. It was not meant to save the world at an excellent value. The fact that more practical versions existed before and shortly after is only more proof of its true mission. All the best from MotoGP. Paradoxically, the rightest and wrongest motorcycle commentator in the world. Well,
I think that's a fairly fair assessment.
you know,
Can't argue with that.
I'm going to, because Pete from Nokomoto is a product of the British Empire, as I am.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have a slightly unique perspective. And in England, motorcycling always has been and always will be a blue-collar pursuit. Just because I talk posh, it doesn't mean I am. I'm very, very working-class blue-collar. And that's why I got my start riding motorcycles, because I was fucking broke, as a lot of other people do. In America, motorcycles have always had this air of luxury about them. I'm not saying it's a toy, but for a lot of people, it's a second vehicle or maybe even a third vehicle, and it doesn't serve a purpose like a motorcycle does. You say everybody in this room commutes on their bikes, and that is largely true. But I think in
segment here.
But I think in America, the difference, and England's gone this way as well, it is so cheap and plentiful to buy a car, you're still making a conscious decision to ride a bike. Now, that's rightly or wrongly, but you're making a conscious decision. You can go out. If I had $1,000 in my pocket right now, I could go out and I could buy a Toyota Echo or, a beat up old Nissan Cube or whatever, and it'd provide me with sterling service to get me to work and back just as cheaply as any motorcycle in terms of MPG for far less money, because there are plentiful cheap cars. Back home in England, where the climate's bad, where cars rust out after 2 or 3 years, you've got the cost of owning a motorbike, which was relatively low, and the cost of owning a car, even a humble car, which was a lot higher. Yeah. And so a lot of the very, very working class people rode motorbikes because that's all they could afford. And so this whole culture, this cafe racer culture, was born out from working class roots.
Yeah, I mean, the whole two-wheel aspect of it is worldwide,
right. I mean,
working class vehicle, cheap transport.
Exactly. And and I want to be absolutely clear. This is not a criticism of America. We're very, very lucky here to be able to have the choice, to have this giant array of vehicles, affordable vehicles and affordable gas that's at our disposal. Yeah. That as a 17-year-old, if you want to go out and buy yourself a cheap Jag, you can do that and, drive it around and afford to put the gas in it. It's a viable thing, and work at McDonald's if you want to.
When I was 17, my grandparents were getting rid of their car, and I was like, oh, can I have it? My parents would not let me have it. It was like a 1978 Cadillac that got 5 miles per gallon.
Right.
I'm like, oh, that was probably a good call on their part.
Yeah, I think so. But you think of all your friends you could have gone cruising with.
My dad took it camping because you could fit so much stuff in it.
Right. Yep. But to really cement my case, if you look at any high school parking lot right now, it's a lot of very, very nice machinery in there. And you go back 40 years, let's go back to 1980, 81 and have a look at a high school parking lot.
VW bugs.
There's a lot of bugs in there. Hondas. There's a lot of Cadillacs, Grandma's Cadillac, Lincolns,
Hondas.
Still nice cars, a lot of nice cars. Yeah. And then there's a cool kid who's got Honda Interceptor.
Mm-hmm. In my school, all the cool kids had little MG convertibles.
There you go.
Yep.
The gymnastics team, they all had them. They were so cool with their muscles.
Right.
Yeah.
What are you trying to say?
So, yeah, it's and Triumph were the same way. Yeah. Triumph have spent their whole life trying to sell bikes to young executives. But the truth is, if you go to any of the toughest pubs, biker pubs, in Birmingham, where I grew up, or London, or Manchester, or Newcastle, and these are the toughest biker pubs, well, you better know who you are when you're walking in. There's a load of Triumphs outside, because that's who rode the Triumphs. The tattooed of the tattooed, the
real biker trash.
Right, exactly. But Triumph spent their whole lives marketing these bikes to young executives.
Yeah.
You look at the ads for Triumph Bonnevilles in the 70s. It's all the suit and tie guy, stepping out of the Bentley and onto his Triumph Bonneville.
Well, and I want to keep on this vein of most misunderstood. And Bagel, you have an email there to share with us.
Yes, I do. This is an email from our friend Dan Hostiuk.
Hey, Dan.
Hey, Dan. Oh, hey, Dan. What's up?
And Dan says, this is about the most misunderstood bikes. And Dan says, any scooter. but more specifically, any vintage Vespa. Americans are never sure what to make of them. Here are the questions you will inevitably be asked if you're riding a vintage scooter. What is that thing? What kind of moped is that? What year is that thing? And always expecting an answer of 1960 something. How fast that thing go? You allowed to take that on the highway?
Sounds like AMA Vintage Days questions.
Yep. How much one of them things cost? That get good gas mileage? Ain't those things death traps?
Yes.
And then proceeds to tell you a story about their uncle, grandpa, old neighbor that had an accident on a Cushman. How far can you ride on that thing? And of course, why you ain't got a real bike?
Oh, that hurts.
And also, can you put a passenger on there? And ain't those things for ladies and kids?
Yeah, for ladies.
What if I am a lady and a child?
The list goes on and on. And Dan says, I'd argue that they are misunderstood by both the general population and most motorcyclists. So thank you, Dan, for that submission. I totally agree.
Well, I want to keep on this theme because we had another great email come in, and Matt sent us his list of top 10 misunderstood bikes. So this is an opportunity for us to tear down someone else's list.
Well, I'm not sure.
Is this Mad Hatter Matt?
Well, you might agree. No, this is not. This is Matt Rogers. So his list of top 10 misunderstood bikes. Number 1, the Yamaha SRX6. You guys familiar with this?
Yes,
it's
I
a
am.
single cylinder kicker, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Pile of shit.
You
He's-
had one here, didn't you?
He said, well, we've never had one here.
Oh.
He said at first he was thinking of the SR500,
Also a
the
pile of
70s
poo.
cult classic, which became a natural for cafe racer types. And then Yamaha renewed them with the SR400 a few years ago that were kickstart for the beginner market. That was a bad idea. And then the SRX 600cc single perimeter frame factory cafe racer. He says, I don't think I've ever seen one in the flesh. If I did, I'd probably try and buy it.
There's one for sale right now in
They are
the Bay Area.
cool looking.
Yeah, it's a cool looking bike. But I mean, how much fun can you have with 25 horsepower?
They kind of remind me of the Muse.
Yeah.
Is that Scorpion Muse, right?
It's cool looking though.
I mean,
sure.
you know, they're okay.
Oh, the MZ Scorpion. Is what you're talking about?
Yeah, Scorpion.
So
Moving on.
yeah, his second one, I 100% agree.
Misunderstood bike.
Misunderstood bike.
Yes.
The Honda TLR 200 Reflex.
Oh, that is.
Yeah, you know this one. You know this one. It was a street legal trials bike.
Oh, okay.
They made them in 86 and 87. He goes,
look
what
at
were
that.
they thinking? It's a cool bike. You see them at like AMA Vintage Days.
But what are you
It
going to do?
looks like kind of a ripper. Like,
What
you
are
gotta
you
get time
going to
on
do
this.
with a street legal trials bike? I mean, you could ride over your
I know,
neighbor's
right?
Ford Escort.
Start
That'd
jumping
be kinda
I
cool.
think
mailboxes.
that's the
Yeah.
idea.
Big old 21-inch front wheel?
Yeah, I think they were trying to make trials
But you
riding,
know-
and bringing it to the mainstream.
Soichiro Honda's mantra was always, I will make a bike for everyone.
Yeah.
Every
Well-
single person I will make a bike for. When you understand that that was his mantra, that was his business model, you understand things like the TLR, you understand things like the Gyro, you understand things like the Elite, which was frankly quite an odd little thing.
And in this case, they made a bike for a mountain goat.
Yes.
Mm.
So I would agree. The
Yeah,
Reflex is kind of a cool, weird bike.
it's cool.
Moving on.
Yeah.
The 1979 KLX 250. So he says, way before the modern KLX series, back in the dark ages when four-stroke dirt bikes were heavy and suspended, Kawasaki had the brilliant idea to put an underpowered four-stroke single out of the KL 250 in a chassis from their KX motocrossers. The result was a light, agile, well-suspended, but pitifully slow dirt bike. They only sold it for 1 year, and he has owned 2 of them.
Right.
So, I mean, 79. Yeah, if it's an underpowered 4-stroke, you can still, people were riding 2-strokes in, right?
Yeah, exactly. And most of us were doing a lot of coke back then. So,
So much cocaine.
yeah.
All right. So I'm going to agree with this next one.
Okay.
Most misunderstood bikes, because I've had a soft spot for the Yamaha Phaser and Radian.
Oh,
If
God.
you guys don't remember these,
I remember those. Yeah.
it was
Baby
a
VMAX.
500 and a 750, I believe.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep.
Right? And they were similar styling, kind of the big brother, little brother kind of thing. Kind of ugly, but
Well, it-
performed really well.
Well, it was the whole, this sort of drag culture, this whole Eliminator, Mad Max kind of.
Yeah.
No, this was not like the Eliminator.
That's not like the Gladius or whatever. It was.
No,
No,
not the Phaser in England was sold as kind of like the baby VMAX.
No. Are you familiar with the Radian?
Yes, the Radian, I know.
Yeah, so
It's kind of an odd thing. I mean, is it a cruiser? Is it a
Wait, what year Phaser?
Street Fighter?
this is these were 80, like in 85, I think.
Hmm.
Yamaha Radian, and then the Yamaha Phaser. Look, it's a street bike, but it had this
Oh,
weird
yeah.
kind
Okay.
of little gas tank kind of
Yeah.
thing, you know.
Yeah, it's kind of an odd thing.
No, unique styling.
Yeah, well, you know, Yamaha were doing some quite oddly styled bikes back then.
Yeah. So I would agree with that, but it performed well. It didn't have issues I'm aware of.
It's like a Nighthawk or something.
Right.
All right, so
Scoopy.
I'd like to get the people on the couch's opinion on this one. The Harley Davidson XR 1000 and XR 1200.
Yeah, the 1200 was misunderstood.
So this was Harley's attempt to capitalize on the racing success of their legendary XR 750
Mhm.
flat track bikes, but how they went about it was questionable at best. The XR 1000 had an engine that looked the part with the rear barrel turned around 180 degrees and two big air filters sticking out in the breeze. But then they stuck it in an ordinary Sportster chassis, so it looked to the average person just like another Sportster. With the 1200, they styled it so it didn't look like anything else on the road, which may or may not have been a good thing. It certainly didn't look like a flat tracker.
I
Um,
always wanted an XR 1200.
Yeah,
That was
they're,
like
they're the ones
cooler-
that discontinued a couple years ago, right? In
I was
2010.
gonna say, I don't think I mean,
That was a brilliant bike.
the XR 1200.
Did you ride one?
No.
They looked cool.
Yeah.
I rode
They're
one.
cool.
It rode like a brick.
Oh.
They had like no travel in the suspension.
Oh.
Yeah, every bump.
they
gives
had
I was
you
gonna
a
say the
nose.
one that I rode had a lot of modifications to it,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
it rode great.
It looked really
Yeah.
cool, and people who
Cool
have
bike.
them
They had their own racing
are so
league.
proud
They
of
look
them.
dope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen Clay ripping that thing up.
And
Clay. Yeah.
they sold gangbusters in Europe.
Did they really?
Yes.
It's like a European. Okay.
Yeah, it's a very European thing.
So this next one I have not heard of. I need someone to look this up. Knock.
Yes.
Ducati Indiana.
Oh,
God, that's a Ducati,
No, no.
Apparently, in
no.
the 80s,
Yeah.
they made a cruiser.
Oh God, no.
I'm curious.
They named the dog Indiana.
God,
That is
no.
Sean
You gotta
Connery
be
has
kidding
joined the
me. That is
podcast.
That is god awful.
It is gruesome.
What's it look like, Knock? Did you
Uh,
bring it
it's
up?
so
Let me
long.
see.
Oh.
Those wheels.
It's a spaghetti western.
It is a
It's a
spaghetti,
spaghetti
western.
Wow.
It's like it's like a shadow and something else.
Yeah,
Had a
Like a
bastard
Virago.
child.
Teardrop tank.
Yeah, it's like a-
Virago.
like a
Yeah.
Virago. Oh my God.
Ooh, that seat. Mm.
Okay.
Damn, what?
It's a drunken Italian interpretation of a shadow.
Okay. If we're talking about Italian choppers, I will take your Ducati Indiana and I will raise you a Fantic chopper.
Mm.
Fantic. Now we all know Fantic. They do rather good dirt bikes. So I will take that and I will raise you.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Oh, it's like, what do they call the Japanese ones?
That is
Spaghetti
horrible.
Western version.
Oh my god.
What the hell is that? What happened to it?
It's
Oh.
a Fantic
Dude, you're gonna pull
chopper.
chicks so hard
Oh, I
right
feel
now.
like
That looks
Andy,
like a-
Andy Stashenko.
All
right?
that-
I love it.
All that is missing is
I
your
love
Coke
it.
spoon.
Oh.
That is all that's missing.
I love
It's
it.
all seat.
There's a lot of seats.
An
on that bike.
attitude.
Yeah, look how
the seat's
ugly
really
that
impressive.
seat transitions into the
You know
gas
what?
tank. That's horrible.
The Ducati 650 Indiana ain't so bad looking.
Sorry, Ducati.
I mean, it's okay.
Oh.
Somebody
I'll
loved it
roll with
somewhere.
it.
No,
Okay,
and
okay.
it was all
It's great.
the Indiana was all action and reaction. We tend to forget that in the 80s, cruisers were big sellers.
They were.
Mhm.
If you take
Mhm.
any of the model ranges, the cruiser was the best selling bike. It's hard to believe the Suzuki Madura. When was the last time you even saw a friggin' Madura?
Yeah.
That was bike of the year for like 88.
Mm.
You could walk into a Suzuki dealer and you could either buy a Gixxer 1100 or a Madura.
Madura all day long.
And the Madura was the bike of the year.
Oh, Lord.
So in that climate, you've got all these Italian manufacturers and they're all broke.
Yeah.
You know, all of them are broke. And we're like, we want a piece of that pie. So what can we do with this V-twin engine we've got? And some were more successful than others. And you can argue that the Ducati Indiana was more succcial style-wise. It was not a good seller.
Oh, you know what?
man.
That bike you were showing looks like that thing that Cameron bought at AMA Vintage
Yeah.
Days.
Uh-huh.
say.
Well, the two-stroke fucking.
It was a 50cc two-stroke cruiser.
Yeah.
That was a Yamaha made.
Right.
All right. So moving along, this next one is a cruiser, and I think I agree with this one as well. Are you familiar with the Kawasaki Eliminator?
Oh, yeah.
Which one?
Mm.
Well,
They came in lots of flavors.
yes. So there's a 250 and a 1000. So here's the thing. They were perfectly good bikes that suffered from unfortunate timing. The original 900 Eliminator
Yes.
was a drag style bike that might have been more successful had it not been released the same year as the Yamaha VMAX.
Yes.
All the cool
Okay.
kids went out and bought the VMAX, and the poor Eliminator slid into obscurity, but still a cool looking bike. And I know people who actually drag raced them. The 250 Eliminator was a perfectly good alternative to Honda's Rebel, but it unfortunately didn't look like a Harley, which had been left in the dryer too long, while the Rebel did.
Right.
And so
There's also 125.
Yep.
this is
That's very popular in England
Mhm.
still.
this is a good example of a bike that comes out that's a perfectly good bike, but there's something else better that completely
Right.
knocks it
Liza.
out of the niche.
And the
There's
Eliminator.
rumors of it coming back as an H2 Eliminator,
What?
a supercharged muscle. It's just
Oh.
rumors, I guess. But
Oh.
It's just popped up.
That's
on
it
my
right
Oh.
feed.
there.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, I like that.
Huh.
You know, I like the Eliminators.
Looks
I
like
mean,
a little street
the
750.
See VMAXy looking.
Yeah.
the 900 was a brilliant style thing. The 900 basically became 1000, and that was the 600. Remember Joanne, my friend, who used to come down here quite regularly?
Oh, yeah.
On her,
The yellow
her
one.
yellow
Yeah.
Eliminator with factory purple flames.
I think it was dope.
Yep.
So his next one is the BMW R65 LS
I don't know that.
as a misunderstood bike. And he says honorable mention is the Suzuki Katana. Hans Muth, having designed arguably the most beautiful motorcycle of all time with the R100 RS, apparently decided that the motorcycles didn't look strange enough, so he designed the LS and the Katana, and they were bland. These were popular with the magazines, but to me, they were just weird. The number 9, the KTM Freeride 250R.
The electric one?
So, no, this
No.
one. So about 15 years ago, the trials bike maker Scorpa offered a bike called the X-Ride, which was basically a trials bike in a more traditionally off-road looking and street legal motorcycle. After that, they were taken over by Sherco. They reintroduced the concept as the T-Ride. A few made it to the U.S., but I've yet to see one despite years of trying. This is an interesting concept, however, and KTM had the sales volume and engineering ability to make it happen. So the original Freeride 350 didn't make it to the US, but they eventually brought in the second generation, the Freeride 250R, which unfortunately wasn't street legal, blah, 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 blah.
Oh, I think it's too obscure to be misunderstood.
Too obscure.
Darling, yeah.
And then the last one on his misunderstood bike, which I
Yes.
think is a good one, the BMW G650 Cross Country.
Yes.
Is it the X-Moto one?
Yeah.
Yes.
The dirt bike.
Same platform,
Cool
yeah.
bike.
The dirt bike. I saw those in Scotland.
Parallel twin.
They
This
look
was
bitchy.
a 650 single made
Single?
by
Oh, shit.
Rotax.
Yes. Okay.
And they were like 2007 and 2009. And this is one that
Yeah, they look boss.
I think it did. The tank wasn't a tank.
Yeah,
Right?
you sit on the gas tank.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, you can use the
Um,
tank for storage. There's so many bikes that are going to misunderstood. I think Craig Vetter's mystery ship.
Right. Bagel, you have arrived back from the lavatory at the perfect time, darling. At the perfect time. Italjet Dragster. Cool.
Oh, yeah.
Full.
Oh, cool.
I think it is cool, but not sustainable.
Do you
have a
think
model
do you
of
think
one
it's
here
misunderstood, darling?
Yeah, I think it is largely misunderstood. It's an amazing. It's really sort of the pinnacle of two-stroke technology in terms of scooters.
And styling?
Styling is just out of this world.
It's polarizing.
It's bizarre.
I like it.
And the suspension, just even aside from the styling, just the suspension design is polarizing.
Yeah. Hub steer.
It has a very just weird kind of alternative setup for the front suspension, which actually works really well from what I've heard. I've never ridden one. But the unfortunate part is that because it has so many moving parts in the suspension, the bushings tend to wear out, and that is a nightmare to replace those, from what I understand at least. And unfortunately, a lot of the Italjet dragsters have not survived because of that.
Oh dear.
Yeah, kind of like MP3s.
Okay.
What do you guys think most misunderstood bikes? I think
know.
the Versys.
Versus is pretty.
Oh
good
yeah, I'll go with
example.
that. We've always said that,
Very
Yeah.
capable, not very popular.
right?
Wait, it's
I don't-
being
don't
sold
get it.
though. I don't know if it's not popular. I think it's like the quiet achiever status, kind of
Wow.
like, you know what I mean?
You can pick them up
It's
for less
Still
than
not
$3
that
grand.
rare.
No, I know.
I mean,
it's
still kind of rare. You don't see them. Not like the SV650s, how popular those were, right?
Mhm.
Emma, what do you think? What's a misunderstood bike? Oh, how about the R1200C?
There you go. And that's a perfect example because it's easy to look at the R1200C and say, yes, it's an ugly cruiser. Yes, it's this. Yes, it's this. In my opinion, and I stress it is my opinion, it is the finest sidecar tug ever made and ever likely to be made. I think it's an extraordinary sidecar tug. Everything's
there's
there.
one right above your head. There's an R1200C right there.
Right. But as a standalone motorcycle, no, I stick with my two last week. I mean, the RF900, my beloved Rufus, is a very misunderstood bike. And the PC800, again, a hugely misunderstood bike. Bagel, the show's getting long. Share your news. You nearly bought a motorcycle, didn't you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that was some
Almost
Wow.
did.
Hold on a minute.
Yeah, as I was just bored and
No.
Oh, let me set the scene. So I was just bored and perusing around on Facebook Marketplace for Vespas and other scooters to see what was out there. And for some reason, their algorithm popped up a PC800 in my feed, and this was for sale here in the area. It actually had been on there for like 3 weeks or something, and was only listed for $2,000. So I thought, let me go check this out.
Should've got it, bro.
And so I talked to the guy and set up a meeting on I think it was on Friday afternoon, and I rode out to go check it out. And he was willing to let me take it for a test ride, and I took it for a little 10-minute loop, and it rode nicely. It was 40-some thousand miles on it. It was a little bit loud in how it ran. Just sort of, it had a lot of throatiness to it, which seemed out of place for a PC800 because when I rode Emma's before, it was very, very quiet. I could hardly even hear it running. But this one had lots of grunt when I was riding it, and I was a little bit puzzled by that. But otherwise, it seemed to ride fine, and it was much heavier than what I'm used to. So I was a little bit cautious riding it just to make sure I didn't.
You're used to scooters, darling. It's
Exactly.
just a motorbike.
Right. But it seemed to do fine. When I got back, my biggest reservation was, do I really want a bike this big? And so I wasn't
3 scooters in its spot.
Right. Yeah. And I wasn't completely sold on it. But at the same time, I've had a soft spot for the PC 800, since the beginning, really, because they're just so different, and they do have a lot of scooter-like styling to them and features.
Is it white?
Yeah, it was white and champagne.
Yeah.
The 1989, original edition, and the guy who owned it, he only had it for a couple of years. He said he bought it for his son. For his son to ride when he would go out riding on his bike, but for one reason or another, they just never really got into doing that regularly, and he ended up selling his own bike. So his son really wasn't riding this bike anymore. So he decided, well, it's time to sell it. And I was really tempted, I have to say,
Just say yes.
because it was $2,000.
You're a bad influence, Emma.
No, it was.
But
Bagel actually reached out to me for technical advice, and we went over a few things. And I think Bagel had a lucky escape.
Yes,
but we're talking about details, Bagel. The revelation is that you nearly bought a motorbike.
I almost bought it, but I think like as we discussed, I think this was probably a good thing, because after I came back from the test drive, I shut the bike off and talk with the guy for a little bit. Told him I wanted to think about it, and I'd let him know either later that night or the next morning, what I wanted to do. And he said, "Well, let me know soon, because I got somebody else who's coming to look at it." And I said, "All right, well, I'll give it some thought." And when we left to go, I started my bike up, my salvaged Vespa that had been rear-ended, started right up and was ready to go. And he went to start the PC 800, and it just went buzz.
Kind of like the Pan America today.
and the thing too is that he said he'd put a brand new battery in the bike.
Oh no, reg.
Yeah. So my thought, either reg or possibly even the stator is something's not charged
familiar.
Right? And
these are details, Bagel.
Yeah.
You nearly bought a motorbike.
I almost did.
For those of you who don't know what a revelation this is.
Wait a minute. Doesn't he own a CT90?
Doesn't matter.
I own a CT70. Or a Passport.
This is a proper motorbike.
Okay.
And, Bagel considering a proper motorbike is like somebody who has devoted themselves to a lifetime of celibacy, looking at their next door neighbor's wife and going, "Oh, blimey."
Hey,
You nearly bought a motorbike, Bagel.
Hey.
So
almost.
How happy
Is that
he
what we're
looks.
saying?
Look at him.
Look how happy he
he is.
Out of the closet, Bagel.
I got a vaguely related question.
I was bike curious.
You are bike curious.
I got a vaguely related question. Did the governor sign in the lane splitting bill in yet?
I haven't heard if that was passed or signed yet. I should check on that though.
Yeah,
I know that it came out of committee or something, but
yeah,
I don't know where that went.
It's not like California where it's super permissive. I think there's some restrictions to it, but I think people are still kind of on board with it. So
yeah, it's only while traffic is stopped. So basically it's filtering, but that's a vast improvement over just not being able to lane split at all.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I wanted to just real quick, because I know we're getting near the end. I wanted to catch up because there's some people in this room who haven't been on the show for a while. So let's start with Jeremy. Jeremy, have you bought any new bikes or had any crashes since we last spoke to you?
No, I haven't had any crashes. I have not bought any new bikes because I have 2 project bikes. The Superhawk's running. I rebuilt the front end thanks to Knock.
Yeah,
we got me some fork tubes.
Yeah, man.
I'm gonna redo it because the suspension's insanely soft now. I don't like it. My XR, it was running fine, but I knew it was time after 20 years of existence for some maintenance. Pulled it apart. And I was right. All the swing arm and linkage bearings were either frozen or ground down, like the races were grinding down, like bad. bad. So
Get that brown rust in there, huh?
yeah. So I'm on the I almost have it rebuilt. Wait on some parts and kind of throw it back together, and then do the electrical bit.
Okay.
So just projects.
All right, Henry, have you bought any bikes or had any crashes?
No crashes for one.
Wait, hold on.
Yay!
Hey, I've been commuting daily and I haven't had any crashes or oh shit moments, so that's good. I sold the Aprilia Futura that I had because unfortunately the motor was slowly dying because of an overheating issue with it. And I ended up buying a supermoto, Yamaha WR250X.
There you go.
Cool.
Nice.
With wood grain side panel.
It is the American Eagle wood grain edition.
Very nice.
I am
That's a good
not-
bike though.
Thing's
I am
loud,
not
too.
joking on that.
It's fucking loud.
And Knock, have you had any crashes or bought any bikes in the last year?
No, I have not.
Great. Have you done
No.
anything?
Not really,
No,
dude.
okay.
I haven't done goddamn shit. I thought I was gonna do the cool, like, COVID project. I get to get my garage in order, and then I broke my collarbone and just like
That's right.
scrapes smegma out of my under my armpits.
God almighty.
That was disgusting.
And Jim, you haven't bought anything, but you told me you announced. I think you know what your next bike is going to be.
I've been thinking about it. We always go back and
That's
forth.
what happens. It gets in your craw.
Yeah,
It does.
but hats off. Emma helped me today get the FC1 charging issue sorted out.
Oh, good.
We went back and forth between stators, mostly because I ordered the wrong year. I got it ordered in 2008 instead of 2012.
Yeah, but that's okay.
That happens.
And now it's charging.
Now it's charging wonderfully, and it's a
you,
ripper.
You haven't smiled as much as I have seen you smiling this afternoon.
Yes.
You went out.
He
For
smiled
quite
a lot when he
quite
pulled
a
his pants off.
Yeah. Well, it's hot in
Spirited.
here.
You went out for quite a spirited little ride on that thing, didn't you?
Yeah. Well, I hadn't been ridden in a while, like 3 months or so.
Hmm.
Trying to sort this issue out, right? And so we had to put it through its paces. So
Yeah, 160 horsepower, weighs nothing.
yeah. So yeah, nothing like heading up the coast and hitting cruising speed, coming out of second and third gear on those straightaways.
Yeah, buddy.
which is it pulls. And then and then went up through Bonnie. I stopped and got a cookie and that wonderful pecan tart,
Which
that
you
we
shared with Emma.
Yes.
Lucky me.
It was good.
But I want to know, what is your next bike? Because I think you're focused.
I am looking at it. No, I do gravitate towards the Hondas. Big Honda fan. I think the 450, the new 450L.
Oh,
you
I
should
want
share
that.
a 450.
That's like my
Hell yeah, bro.
Just hang on there.
Get some 17s on that, Jim. Five
You,
some
need, you
17s.
need to look at the maintenance schedule of that bike. You,
Okay.
you,
It's not like a supercross dirt
Is this
bike,
the
right? But
oil
it's
change
pretty
every
recent,
500
right?
miles?
Like it's 50,000? Something like that?
no,
Five?
no.
Every 5,000 miles?
You need to look at the maintenance schedule.
So
of
here,
that
so
thing.
then I'll pose this question: what about that versus the Husqvarna 350 dual sport bike?
I think the Honda ultimately will be more reliable, but I think you need to learn how to service it yourself
Okay,
and understand that you're going to be ringing that thing at 10,000 miles.
I know it doesn't have a lot of low end torque. to
yeah,
it,
but which one would two-stroke, man, go? That's cool, bro.
T-strip.
Oh, two-stroke, you
fucking-
go with a Husky.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Two-stroke,
Husky,
bro.
well,
But no, I mean,
Yeah.
the
KTM
450,
500.
Because that is his
Of
hero.
course.
His two-stroke man
KTM
with
500.
the sandwich in his pocket.
I know, right?
the 450 is a great bike, but the first time I saw the maintenance schedule, I'm like, oh my God. It's got the maintenance schedule of a dirt bike,
Yeah.
not a street bike, because it is a dirt bike with turn signals on it.
Well, and bringing it back around full circle to the Pan America, the thing that's great about that being a Harley is no owner will ever have to do the work because they always take it in for service. Right?
I don't know about
I don't
that.
know. Your
See,
sponsor
this
might
is
have
classic
something to say about that.
Liza. Getting
Come
in
on.
the final
Come on.
thing.
No.
Objection, Your Honor. Leading
they
the
take it in for
witness.
service.
This was something I wanted to point out. The Pan America, 150 horsepower, 94 foot-pounds of torque, hydraulic valves.
Yeah, see,
Never-
that's dope.
That's good.
That's way more power than the Africa Twin too.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Way
it's
more.
substantially
I mean, you look-
quicker bike.
Like you look at the KTM like 1290, which I think has like 160 or 70 horsepower, but you go get a valve adjustment, that's going to be like $1,500 right there.
Right. And that's a very, very valid point, Henry, because if you take overall ownership experience, and that can encompass a lot of things, that can encompass looking back and admiring your bike. It can encompass how well your bike rides, but it can also encompass how long you spend in the designated crying area when they give you the bill at the dealership. And if you're paying me 6 hours to do the valves on your bike, which, as you say, with the oil, with the filter, with blah, 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 it's a $1,500 bill. And you're not going to get that on the Harley because it's got hydraulic lifters on it. Surely that's going to add to the ownership experience.
In long term, yeah.
It's horrible how, like, I wish it was more pervasive where you could get a 150 horsepower motor with no valve, services.
Yeah, we're not quite there yet.
I'm surprised it's not as common, like.
Well, Honda was doing it with an air-cooled motor back in the 80s, and it could rev to 10,000 RPM.
Right.
So I wanted to thank Nick and Caitlyn for bringing the Pan America here.
Absolutely.
And I kind of feel like
Appreciate
we've opened a door to the world of Harley Davidson.
Chromosexual.
And that maybe we could do this again.
I like that.
With something else.
Nick, both Nick and Caitlyn, you've been wonderful guests on the podcast, but you've been wonderful guests here at the Recycle Garage. Would you come back and bring us a live wire? How would you feel about that?
I think that's absolutely doable.
Very doable.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I have a
Nice.
charger. No, I do.
Yeah.
We
Gotta be able to
we have a
test
Tesla.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Because Liza's parents bought into the whole sort of
We have Teslas next
Tesla
door, so
thing, so
we've
they've
got charging
fast
stations.
Nothing wrong with that.
Perfect.
But I would love any product that you think is new that we would enjoy. Because, I mean, Harley are obviously doing a very aggressive outreach on these new products, and quite rightly so.
Well, I mean, you said the live wire, but I wanted to ask them, since we got two themes going here, Harley Davidson and most misunderstood. What bike in the current catalog do you think is misunderstood that maybe you'd like to share with us? That's a hard
And
one.
that may be the live wire.
I say current catalog. That's a little bit more difficult. I
What?
would say I would say the Livewire is probably the most misunderstood currently.
Yeah.
There's a couple bikes in the past that I feel that I really loved, but were very misunderstood.
You know, I was always a huge fan, Nick, of the Super Glide, and it broke my heart when they dropped it, because in a lot of ways, the Super Glide was the least Harley of Harleys. To me, the Super Glide was just a stripped down. It wasn't a cruiser; it was a standard. It had standard size motorcycle wheels. It was a standard, and I just viscerally loved it. And I can't remember what they replaced it with—the Lowrider, I think, or something. But it was a lot
Or the Fat Bob,
blingier.
maybe.
Yeah, it
Well,
was a lot blingier. And
keep
I
that in
wasn't
mind.
happier with it.
And I give you an open invitation to bring something down to us that maybe you think is misunderstood to help, get the word out. And I'm not going to say change our minds. My minds aren't set. I like bikes. I like the 48. The only thing I don't like is a trike.
Understood.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, the trike fulfills a purpose, and you don't necessarily go into a dealership and say, "I'm going to buy the trike."
Yeah.
You buy the trike if you can't ride a two-wheel bike for whatever reason. So it's fulfilling. It's keeping people on the road who may not have that opportunity.
To understand trikes, just go to South Dakota.
Ooh,
You will understand trikes. They're cool.
would you be able to bring used bikes in?
Yeah,
Maybe?
depending. Yeah.
V-Rod.
That was going to be one of my
There we
misunderstood
go.
bikes.
Yeah, that's a good one.
V-Rod.
Yeah.
We'll just start a little wish list.
Hey, I was going to say, we'd be more than happy to bring anything that we might think, but also if you guys are feeling the itch that you want to maybe see something that you're curious about.
I'm lucky enough. I've ridden a couple of V-Rods with that Porsche engine,
Well-
and they move along pretty well.
And I would even offer that maybe we could bring a lot of us up to the dealership on a Saturday
Absolutely.
and drop in and sit on bikes and
Are they going to be hot dogs?
Will we
There are
Hot
find?
dogs
always
and
hot
nachos.
Will
There are
we?
always
If
hot
we
dogs.
were to go up to Harley Davidson in San Jose on a Saturday, would we find you both there,
You
Or
would.
or would you be on the road?
Not on a Saturday. On
Not
a
in the
Saturday, we
summer.
are chained to the store.
that's
We
how we
are
found
here.
Nick before.
Yep.
Jim
That's
and I
right.
were looking at bikes and
That's
yo,
right.
Misfits.
Another Gemini story.
You know, I think as a point of courtesy, we should go up to the dealership next.
Yeah.
I think so. Do a road trip up to the
That
dealership.
sounds fun.
Motor
I'm
Town's
into that.
closed on Saturdays, so I'm in.
Yeah.
Well, and Bagel, that means you need to go into a Harley dealership now too. Actually,
Maybe.
I think you should go test ride a Pan America. I'd love to get your input.
You know, that's not a bad idea.
Since you were about to make a bad decision anyway.
Bagel nearly bought a motorbike.
This
Wow.
close. I had cash in my pocket.
I just remember
Wow.
when he rode
That's
my
big.
SR 500 and just like white knuckling that thing.
Couldn't get it started again when I stalled it too.
Yeah, I know. Well, again, I want to thank you guys for bringing that down. It was really
No,
fun
it was
to
a
be able to
pleasure.
see it
Appreciate it,
and
guys.
play with it. And just hanging out with you last weekend up at Alice's when we weren't able to ride either. We waited for hours.
We did.
And I still was having fun just
Mhm.
hanging out and talking to people. Speaking of which, what a great day today. You guys got to hang out in the garage,
Yeah, it was
meet
you
all
guys
sorts
are
of
cool
people,
Yeah.
right?
Was it busy?
Oh, yeah. Well, when Mike shows up, the show is on.
Shit show.
The
Happy
show
birthday
is
to
on.
Marie, by the way.
Yeah,
She turned
exactly.
40, doesn't
Oh.
look a day over like 30. She's just
did-
something like
21 is the right answer.
21.
21.
Sorry.
21.
Shit, I was trying not to sound like I'm
God.
ingratiating
Idiot.
like an asshole, okay?
What are you saying?
Tried.
Something about those
Tried.
Danes, man. I'm just saying.
Yeah. So, yeah, thank you to you guys. And thanks.
We're gonna ask them the question.
You
the-
want to ask them the question?
No, you can ask them.
Nick, what's your up the butt bike? Caitlin has no idea what this means.
Caitlin's like,
Okay.
I'm out. Caitlin's like, I'm
but
out.
Nick
It's enough.
does.
I mean,
So-
don't knock it till you try it, right?
You're going to get asked this as well, Caitlin. And just as a primer for you, this is something we ask all our guests.
Okay.
And it goes back to the very early, slightly more raunchy days of the podcast. And we
Slightly
kinda-
more raunchy.
It's which bike, above all else, would you just bend over and take it up the butt for? Because it's that good. Now, Nick has
Yeah.
to answer first.
It's a bike you look at and go, oh, I'd take it up the butt for that. Everybody has one. Mine is the Harley VR1000. Oh, I'd so take it for that. All right, Nick, what's your up the butt bike?
This will be good.
I'm gonna sound like such a cheap date.
Don't say DR6.
Just because it's nostalgia for me.
Yeah.
If I could get a pristine 84 Yamaha 550 Seika. I-
Fantastic.
Yeah.
What a great
Wow.
choice.
Cool bikes.
And you
porn
know,
star.
that dovetails into exactly what you were saying, Nick. I know that Seika would transport you back to a time that you're very nostalgic for.
I think we can make this happen. I just need to know.
No.
Oh, okay. Crisco work? No. All right.
Disgusting.
Care to take a stab at this, Caitlin?
All right, Kanan, what's your up
Oh,
the butt bike?
goodness. I mean,
Come on.
and I think actually, and with not my wealth of knowledge compared to half the people in this room, but when I was mentioning the Suicide Club days, something about that with the tried and true, the old school, whether you want to call them the ruffians of San Francisco. Yeah, those guys got me. I mean, as part of the look and the feel, but just kind of the.
Are you talking like a chopper?
Well, it would be the hill climb bikes. And
Oh.
I just like that look, and I think it's that type of, and it does it for me. The guy that supposedly would be riding that type of bike.
Which LARPer? What LARP is that?
Allegedly.
So yes.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Oh, my
But
Lord.
yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
Right there.
All right.
Mine's the Britain.
Oh yeah.
That is the most butt-worthy bike.
That's exactly
Mine's
it.
Steve McQueen. That's not a bike. So
You know what? That reminds
But
me.
yeah,
I'm going to post this question to the listeners. This is something that came up today. And this is how the podcast started. We're all sitting out there just talking, asking questions, and just having fun. And there was a great question that came up. I want the listeners to answer and email us your answer at recyclemotorcyclegarage@gmail.com. The question is, if Steve McQueen was alive today, what bike would he be riding?
Oh,
That's a
man.
great question.
FTR 12.
I think a Husky 701
The Enduro or the Supermoto?
Enduro.
Okay, yeah.
But
okay.
There's so many possibilities. I mean, Steve McQueen, the epitome of cool. And
it's a Husky 2-stroke. That's what he's riding.
He's riding the same
Same shit. Dude. Why would he not?
Yeah.
You know how hard that pulled chicks, dude? He was like,
makes 2 strokes.
So yeah, tell us what you think Steve McQueen would be riding today. And send that to recyclemotorcyclegarage@gmail.com.
Right in your mom.
And
I can't believe nobody
dude,
said
my
that
mom's
yet.
so old.
I was gonna say
Not your mom specifically, but I'm
Ew,
saying
your mom, she's
the-
old too.
no, the royal you, not the general you, not the royal you.
Yeah, you made it weird again.
That's okay. We're here
It's
now.
not just your mom, everybody's mom.
Oh,
Correct.
That's even worse.
Correct.
Line
My
'em
mom's
up.
old too.
Next.
Knock, my mom's dead now. I'm sad.
Whatever,
Oh,
man.
Also, thanks to everyone who participated in the Santa Cruz Moto Film Festival. It still is one more week. You can get your $10 pass, and there's lots of films to see. And I also posted some great interviews with some of the filmmakers that I did on our YouTube channel for Rev Sisters. So just go to revsisters.com and check out some of these cool films and interviews. I think that's it. You guys, what a great day, huh?
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Just another fun day. Thanks again, you guys, for coming.
Thanks for having
And
us.
Absolutely.
always thanks to our Patreon subscribers,
Who are the best people in the world?
because
Mhm.
you know
that
what
money.
we
Give me
wouldn't
that
have
money.
done, we wouldn't have been able to do without them. We wouldn't be looking at Bagel on that new TV over there and in this new very
That
expensive
is
camera.
dope. That camera works awesome.
This is
Well
Patreon
done.
money
Yeah,
that
thank
let
you
us
very
set
much.
everything up. And I think it'll work. I think the whole goal was to be able to have guests on,
Right.
and still call in, and feel. Bagel, did you feel like you were in the room with us?
I felt like I was there with you in the room, but didn't have to deal with any of the audio issues.
Lucky you. Well played.
Win.
Or the smell.
Oh, Lord have mercy. Hey, can we bring it outside and put it in the middle of mini bike races?
Oh,
that's a great idea.
I would look into it though. I mean,
What?
Well,
Okay,
yeah,
get out. You're
You
fired.
gotta be careful, man.
Oh, dude,
But I
need-
wanted to add, if you are one of our Patreon subscribers, really, you've saved Bagel, because up till last week, Bagel was absolutely crushed. And I don't mind sharing this because we really didn't know how to include Bagel in the future podcast. We simply didn't have the technology to do it.
I was working on it.
And Liza pulled a rabbit out of a hat.
Shazam.
Shazam, and here
Ow.
Bagel is.
Pull
Because
that out of
the
Amazon.
podcast isn't the podcast without you, Bagel.
Oh, thank you,
and
Emma.
you nearly bought a motorbike.
Almost. This close.
Maybe a little closer, Bagel. Did you have the
Maybe.
money in your back pocket?
I had the money with me right there to buy it.
Or you were
I just couldn't do it.
you are
You
an
know-
adulterer of the worst kind.
So,
honey.
Nick, you know where Bagel is right now?
I don't.
Oregon.
Oh, that would explain the filtering law.
Yeah.
North Oregon.
So
So
you got something you want to add?
no, is that thing also an aromatherapy device?
oh, essential oils.
Yeah, it looks like one of those units.
I'm not getting any scented oil over here. I'm just I'm getting all Jim.
Google's doing a retina scan on you right now.
Just don't let the genie out of the bottle. That's all I
Right.
ask.
Right.
So this is where, I thank everyone for sticking with us, listening. And also thank you guys for coming. We're now going to do the outro. You're going to figure this out. Watch what happens. So thanks, everyone. Time to get out of here. This is Liza.
Jeremy.
Henry.
This is your mom.
Nick.
Caitlyn.
Give me the beans, darling.
Stubby John.
Naked Jim, son.
And we are out of here.
Bagel.
Cool.
Cool.
Lord have mercy.
Love
Cool.
and mercy.
Thank you,
That
Bagel.
was great.
Thank you, Liza.
All right,
Appreciate
we're
you
out of
getting me
here.
on here.
So
All
guys,
right.
See
Bye,
ya.
everybody.
thank you for joining us today.